Hi you guys, I wanted to make a quick video today, and as I was about to make the video, it happened to occur to me that if only there was an interactive editing tool within certain AI models, like for example this one that I'm using right here is Copilot. I've asked it to make um some stars, twinkling stars, um on it, an image just for my video, real size, because I usually need a real size image. And since if you make it in AI, it's not subject to copyright because it's technically considered like it's creating you a work for hire because of basically your own idea. So anyway, I asked it to do this and it wasn't really understanding me on what to write, but I wanted to make this video today because I wanted to basically talk about what happened to me right before I ended up with cold urticaria. So the years leading up to cold urticaria were pretty much um, kind of I think it cost it. It's just my opinion that I think that it cost it. So basically what happened was that I had my son, and right after I had my son, um like I just started to have like all this constant like like infections in my body. And it was like they couldn't figure it out at first, and then it turns out that they knew exactly what it was, but they had just not told me. And I also had some other like really just crazy experiences um while I was going through this. They let me flatline, so I ended up flatlining. I basically I died. I died. And they didn't try to resuscitate me or anything, and my body brought me back all by itself. My body actually got my heart to come back and everything. And yeah, I know it was a miracle, but at the same time, I definitely felt very traumatized by that experience. And after that, months later, I found out that I actually had cold urticaria. I mean, not cold urticaria, excuse me, staph infection. I'm just thinking about the cold urticaria. I had staph infection, and then I went on mucosin, and then the mucosin was not as effective because I had been on the wrong antibiotic, because the hospital had given me like amoxicillin, which is kind of like a penicillin family. And because I had staph and they knew I had staph, and I was given the paperwork that the hospital knew that I had staph, and they basically decided not to say anything and they were going to let me die. I really think that it was motivated by like organ donation and stuff like that. At the time, I was an organ donor, um, and now I'm not. I'm not saying that, maybe you shouldn't donate your organs, but I won't. Because after this experience, it really opened my eyes to what it's like. And now, also with cold urticaria, even if I wanted to donate my organs, I would not be able to because the condition does not stop at just like my skin. It's also in everything, every part of me. It's in every single part of my genetics because according to my immunologist, what happened was that a gene mutated because of stress, which is probably what happened because I was alone for pretty much like since like all those years, but specifically when I had my son, it was even worse because my son's father like just would take off. and tell me he was working. And sometimes I wouldn't see him for 2 weeks, 2 weeks and a half. I wouldn't hear from him. There was times when I would even call, like, what do you call it? To report missing. I would report him missing. I would try to report him missing, and they would always tell me just wait a few days. Then I would get to a point where I would just call his mom, and then eventually they would um, get a hold of him and get him to like come back home. And then, like, I never knew where he was. He was um, on substances, and he was always with friends doing substances, and sometimes he was at parties, and it was just very, very difficult to date a person like that. And um, I still don't know how in the world did I ever date a person like that, because this is not the type of person that I am. I also, during this time, at this point in my life, I happen to be allergic to, uh, I'm allergic to weed. I'm allergic to alcohol. I cannot drink or smoke. I can't any of those things. So just imagine the fact that I happen to attract this kind of person, and here I am that I don't ever do any of those things. And it's funny because so many people always think that I did, because I would just like pose with like a, like a bottle or something with his friends or whatever. They would just be taking a picture. And so people thought I drank, but I didn't actually drink. Like, I don't actually drink because I actually happen to have this allergy. So, anyways, and I've become more and more allergic to things, and I actually, you know, um, feel like I just need to make a list one day for my allergies. But yeah, I had a kiwi the other day, the fruit I've eaten my whole entire life. And as soon as I came in contact with it, my mouth was just like swelling. My throat was about to close. I came in here. I was looking for my EpiPen. I couldn't figure out how to even open the EpiPen. I don't know. I was just like in a panic. Then I just took more of my allergy medication. I did the nasal spray. I like threw everything else at it, and I was like, well, let me like figure out what I'm gonna do. And then before I knew it, as I was sitting there trying to open the EpiPen, I finally got it open, and right as I'm about to like basically do the EpiPen on my leg, bam, it all goes away. Like all the allergy reaction just goes away. And so yeah, so it started really in 2000, um like 2012, and then it got worse like 2014 for me, all these infections. And then they gave me Muposin. Muposin didn't do a thing because the hospital had lied to me, tried to, basically take my life. Anyways, then after that, there was just so much stress, and then my son had all these health issues too. My son ended up getting the staph infection too, and it went into his like temples. He had it on his temples, all this stuff, and then he started having like even more cognitive issues than before, and it was insane. It was absolutely insane, and I always wish that I could sue that hospital. I talked to one attorney, and he said, "Well, you should have known. You seen pus." And well, then that just made me think like I don't have a case. So I just didn't sue anybody, basically. But yeah, so my son ended up getting like all this pus like was coming out of his head, and then we went to this doctor, and this doctor was like, I don't believe in antibiotics. And so he didn't put my son on antibiotics. And then it got worse, of course. And my ex, being my ex, that also thought that medicine isn't real, apparently, was like, no, talk like gaslighted me into thinking that no, I shouldn't pursue medication for my son. And anyways, I took him to the doctor anyways, and we got I got antibiotics for him and I got help for me. And we both went on the mucosin because turns out he had it. And they had to do a nose swab. And then they reached out back to the emergency room. And the emergency room basically finally communicated to them that, yeah, in fact, I did have the staph infection uh, since March 11th of, uh, 2014, which is when they took a biopsy of my leg and a large one too, a large biopsy. It's still I like there's skin on top, but you can feel the bone. It used to be worse actually before, but now it's gotten a little bit better. But yeah, um, so then what happened was that basically I went through years of just like every 2 weeks I was sick. I was sick. I was having a ear infection, kidney infection, um, kidney stones, um, like just constantly sick, pretty much since like the C-section that I had in 2012. And then it was like pretty much 2000, what is it, 2017 rolls around, and I'm, I was a pretty active person at the time. And I wasn't fat like I got later because of lack of inactivity. Because it's like, even if you just hit a really fast breeze, you can just start to get hives. So, anyway, long story short, what happened was that I basically ended up like I'm going into a pool, and as I'm getting in the pool, as soon as I put my feet in the pool, I turned red. My whole body turns red. I don't know what's happening at the time, and I think I must have been stung by a bee because there was bees around. Turns out, out of all the things that I happen to be allergic to, bees is not one of them. So when I went to the allergist later on, she did one of those allergy tests, and bees was not what I was allergic to. So, anyways, I go into anaphylaxis right there. I don't have an EpiPen. I don't have anything. But because of one foster mom a long time ago that told me to always carry Benadryl with me in case anybody is ever sick, because she was allergic to shellfish and she was allergic to Tylenol. So she used to always say, always carry um some like Benadryl with you because it saved her life so many times, and that stayed in my mind all these years. And so I had, in my purse, just Benadryl, and I put it under my tongue like she had told me. And I took like four that day. Don't take four. I don't recommend it. Don't take four. This is not me recommending you to do anything. Any of the things that I'm going to tell you happened here were just done because it was just an emergency, and I had to just do what I could with what I had. But don't do it. Okay, don't do it, because this is not really what you're supposed to do when you get in a situation like that. I just didn't have an EpiPen with me, and you can't buy them over the counter, and you also can't get them refilled either. You can't get them refilled um like without the doctor has to send a prescription to refill it every single time. So like they've made it basically an attempted murder out here for people who have these kinds of, honestly, it should be a disability, because it's brutal. It's brutal to live with this kind of condition. It's hard. It's not easy. It's like, you know, um I was working at a grocery store, and they had me going in and out of a freezer despite me telling them that I had this Safeway. Despite me telling them that I had this. And yeah, allegedly. I'll say that. Anyways, yes. So basically, it's not, it's nothing to play with, because in that moment, what I didn't realize was happening was that my body was sending all the blood from my vital organs into my skin, which is what happens when you have an allergic reaction. And that's why you end up passing away. That's why you die. It's because it sends all the blood from your heart, from your lungs, from your brain, from all your organs to your blood. And it thinks it's fighting an invader. And it's not it's so weird. Somebody really should study more into why the body does this, but I'm also going to tell you what else was going on. I lived in the valley, and the Valley, California is extremely hot. And it's not just extremely hot, like your mouth gets so dry that it sticks together. And you have to all day be sipping water because the valley is that hot. And it's like not just hot, but salty. Like the air is literally salty. And I don't know why it's salty. I have no clue why. I do know that the air, the breeze comes and like blows from basically like everywhere in California. I think it's what is it? Oh my God, San Francisco, and then it gets stuck over there. And then once it gets like unstuck, I think it blows to Sacramento, or I could have it wrong. It might blow from Sacramento to the valley, from the valley to San Francisco. I can't exactly remember right now, but long story short, the air over there is horrible. And so I was breathing in that horrible, horrible air. I was in a climate that was so extremely hot. And I lived there like my pretty much my whole life. I lived in the valley. And it was incredibly um, dry, hot, and just not really anything that um, I would recommend to anybody. And I remember it reaching 123 um like 2015. I think it reached like 123 degrees on June. I think it was like June 20th or June 21st. And it was so hot. It was so hot. And no matter how much you run your air, it just would not even do anything. And um, basically, after we had the pandemic, actually, it got a lot better. It got a lot better. I don't know what the pandemic did, but everybody just stopped driving their cars and all that. It did something because we haven't had it that hot ever since the pandemic. Like, I haven't had a hot day like that. In fact, right now it's really cold. It's really cold, which is very rare. But long story short, is that basically what happened was that I was living in extremely hot weather. So, usually, when you touch cold temperature, your body takes your blood from your skin, from your extremities, and takes it to your lungs, takes it to your heart, takes it to your brain, takes it to your organs. Not the opposite of what happens to me when I come in contact with the cold. So, the survival mechanism of the body is always been come in contact with cold. I'm going to take all of my basically as much of my blood as possible and direct it into the vital organs. I'm going to direct it to the heart. I'm going to direct it to my brain. I'm going to keep it deeper in me so that it stays warmer longer. So why when I come in contact with the cold, it's the complete opposite reaction, the complete opposite survival mechanism kicks in, where it is, oh, I've come in contact with the cold, now let me go to the skin, to that, I guess, to cool down or whatever, but really not cooling down because when I have the reaction, my body gets so hot I start to sweat. I'm like my skin becomes almost like a fever, like hot to the touch. and everything. And I know that we run at, I guess, well, I run at 96 degrees, but most people run at 99 degrees. And let me tell you, oh my gosh, I felt it. This is the only time in my life I felt like I really was 99 degrees or whatever. And I never feel like I'm 99 degrees. I feel like I'm like 4 degrees because I'm pretty cold. But yeah, anyways, so long story short, I think that me living in such a hot climate had something to do with it. And maybe someday they will study things and figure it out. But till then, they're just going to have this account of me telling them what it was. And it was me living in that horrible climate, that surgery. I don't know what that surgery did to me when I had that C-section. I don't know what it did to me. I also happened to have this surgery in a very supposedly prestigious hospital that I don't know what the heck they were doing. And they did a lot of research. But then again, research is not always, we don't really know what they do. And a lot of shady things happened to me at that hospital while I was there. So I don't really want to talk too much about that because, I'm just going to say allegedly. Okay? But long story short, ever since that experience, I've been sick. I've been sick ever since that hospital. And basically, what happened to me was that living in the heat, and then a lot of the people who were at that hospital just happened to be from the same area where I was living, which I thought that was really strange. But anyways, curiosa, okay. But basically, here's the thing. After I had that mucosin, I had to go on more antibiotics. I basically ended up with a bunch of infections, um, all the stuff. Then get in the pool one day, my body freaks out and decides to send my blood to my extremities, which is called anaphylaxis. Okay. Then I basically end up um, going home. I take 4 ibuprofen. I go to the doctor as soon as I can get in. Took a while. Okay, because we're in California. Okay, finally I get to the doctor. She could not figure it out. Sends me home. Go back to the doctor. Can't figure it out. Sends me home. Go back to the doctor to try to see if I can get a doctor that can figure it out. Sends me home. Nope, it's nothing. It's your imagination. You're imagining this. Okay, then every single time that I'm touching cold water, every single time I touch an ice cube, I go to the store, I touch one of those, like, you know, I just touch one of those cold drinks, bam, my hand. Or one day I'm eating ice cream and I barely go to eat one bite and it's just like, bam. Like, and what was crazy was like how hard, like it would first get super hard and then it would sound like a plastic bag. Like the skin would sound like a plastic bag. It was so weird. Um, It was so weird. Like I could go like this to my skin. I could push on it and it would sound like if you have a plastic bag, and you you touch the plastic bag, it would sound just like that. And you could hear like the liquid as it was filling up in your body as the anaphylaxis was coming on. You could hear the liquid. It would just be like I could just hear it. I could hear it. And it was so crazy and weird. And yeah. So anyway, um basically after that, I just eventually got to a doctor. And this lady knew exactly what it was. And she actually pulled out an ice cube. She went and got an ice cube. And she was like, I think I know what you have. I think you're allergic to the cold. And she's like, I'm going to refer you. And she referred me finally to a specialist, an immunologist. The immunologist, it's also an allergist. Okay. And after that, I basically went and she figured it out. She figured out that I had that. She did this whole panel test and basically figured out a lot of what I was allergic to. And yep, I basically realized that I was allergic to the cold. And basically, they take ice cube, they put it on you, and then what's crazy is that you have to keep going because insurance doesn't believe that, you still have it. So they basically have to take you off all your medication. And then you have to go without your medication for like 2 weeks. And then you have to be retested to make sure that you really have it, just so you can get an EpiPen. And I've always been like, that it's an attempted murder. It's an attempted murder. It's like, there's no cure for it. What makes you think that it would go away? Um, but yeah, so it's been crazy. It's been weird, but I think that those were the three contributing factors: stress, you know, um, my ex, never around. That's how it was. I still wonder how in the world was I with this person. I still think about it because that was stressful. He would just disappear on me for like, you know, 2 weeks. And then dealing with like all the things I dealt with like, you know, my health, my son's health. He bounced back from it though, way better. But then again, he has different genetics than me. And I also found out that uh, I'm like I have indigenous ancestry from Mexico. And so because of that reason, um, I don't have as many like immunities as like other people to say like infections, because that was the main reason why so much of the Mesoamerican population was wiped out in Mexico. So basically, they didn't have immunities to like the things that the Spaniards had immunities to. So when the Spaniards came and conquered and spread the gospel, and all that they did, they basically, you know, they had immunity, but the, you know, I think they're also called like Amerindian people, uh, but I could be wrong. I just know they're called Mesoamerican. Um, it's basically like Aztec. If you have like Aztec, Incan, like, and I have all of those actually. I traced my entire DNA. We started off in Peru, like my family tree started off in Peru, and then it traveled down and it mixed. So I can see like the years that they were mixing. So it starts off Inca. So I come from Inca, and then it goes Maya. So I have Maya. And I truly do have those because I know a lot of people always tell me these other tribes that they have, and I'm like, I never heard of those, and I don't have any of those. So I just come from like Inca, Maya, and then it goes Aztec. So I have all of those, and we moved west, and then it's funny that now here I am in the U.S. and I've now mixed. My son has Native American, Irish, and what else is his dad? Oh my God, I forget. Danish. Uh, so it's just funny. Like now I have like mixed my bloodline with another like tribe. It's so weird. It's so weird. Life is so weird. And anyways, my son, he bounced right back from like the infections. Like he came out of it so easy. But me, I was like dying, and here I am, like with cold urticaria because of my body. I think it just stressed it out too much. And yeah, it's an interesting life. It's an interesting life. Anyways, um, but yeah, so the stress, all of the stress from health too, and all of the, I think, antibiotics, I think they did something to me. And then living in such a hot, hot, horrible temperature. And I would never go back to the valley. Don't go there. There's just nothing there. I swear. They don't even want to grow. They have this Pinocchio syndrome over there in the valley. And um there's a lot of pesticide use over there. So like I lived next to a lot of orchards my whole life too. So like, I got exposed to a lot of bad, air basically, because they're putting it, whenever they're spraying stuff on the plants, they're not just spraying it on the plants. Air takes everything everywhere. We know this. We know this. It's just science. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying that maybe it did affect me, but I'm saying that it had to have something to do with it. And here I am, cold urticaria, all this time later, and sometimes my medication doesn't even want to work. It doesn't, you know. So if I don't see you next time, I was here. Take care.